This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, and welcome back to the channel. I want to talk today about RSI, and I want to give you a specific trade setup that I think is a very powerful tool for when you're getting a deep oversold reading, maybe even during a market sell-off. But certainly on an individual stock-by-stock basis, something to be on the lookout for. It's really my favorite RSI pattern. Now, I've talked about RSI a couple different times, but I really haven't spoken specifically about this one characteristic that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and get into the examples for today. I'm starting with Keysight Technology, and I've got a weekly chart up. Now, this approach will work on all time frames. I've looked at it in all time frames, and you definitely can use it really kind of across the board. But I want to use a couple weekly examples today. I think it's a great time frame to use for this strategy. And this has a couple of really nice examples actually here. So I want to look at one specific area, which is this pullback here, right before it made the last high. And what I'm trying to locate is a situation where stock makes a new high, and we get a high here, making a higher high in price, and we get a higher high in the RSI 20. So first, let me just tell you, so the way I have this set up, I have two RSIs set up. I've got the 20 RSI in red, and then in this faint blue is a 5 RSI. And what I'm doing with these is the red line is helping me determine the trend, the strength of the trend, almost in the way of kind of like a momentum indicator, almost a replacement for ADX in a way, because I want to see new highs confirming the price action. So we see a new high here along with the price. And then we get a pullback in the red DI. But what we're looking for is really the pullback in the 5 RSI, because that's the overbought, oversold oscillator. And when I've talked about this in the past, I've said as long as we can get the RSI 20 to stay above 50 and the RSI 5 to drop down under 50, then we could look for opportunities. And many times they'll happen right around the 18 MA. But in this situation, what I'm talking about is a deep oversold reading. So we get a new high here, and then we get a pullback. And notice how the 5 RSI goes all the way down to this dotted line, which is my 30, it's the 30 level down here. And we actually get a close on the RSI at 30 or lower. So if RSI 20 holds above 50 and RSI 5 drops down to 30 or lower, and we have a rising moving averages. This is very important. If the 18 is still rising through this period, most cases, when this happens, the price is going to come down to the 40 and not like what's happened here. It's actually just dropped barely underneath the 18. But in a lot of cases, when you're looking for this setup, you'll get a pullback to the 40. The one criteria I'm looking for is I want to make sure that the 18 is still rising. So we have that in place here. And I would be willing to go a little bit more aggressive in this situation. And I think you can use this as a single time frame strategy. And what I'd be looking for is just to make sure it takes out the prior day's high. So if you get a deep oversold reading and the moving averages are rising, both moving averages are rising, then wait for the last high to be taken out. So let's just put it to you this way. If we get another lower high, then this would be the high. As long as all of our criteria are the same and the moving averages are still rising, you just take the first time we take out a previous bar's high. And again, most of the time this is going to happen at the 40 MA, not the 18. But in this situation, it was so strong that we get a pullback. Now, I would consider this more of a short to intermediate term swing trade type of thing. But if you do it on a weekly chart, it ends up, it end up working up for about 3 or 4 months. And then notice what happened. We got this was the last high in RSI 20. And then even though price made a significantly new high, we got pretty nice divergence taking place in the RSI 20. So that divergence is telling us we want to be looking for an exit point. You could sell into that. But either way, it's a pretty good trade when you're getting in right near the 18 and then you're selling when it gets extended above. Now, notice what's happening right now. We have a similar situation. This is deep oversold, and we're right around the 50 mark. I mean, to me, that's close enough. The problem is, look what happened to the 18 during this pullback. So this pullback is caused, even though we're right at the 40, I am not interested in playing this same pattern because the 18 has rolled. It has to stay rising if we're going to do this trade. We want to show continued momentum based on the 18 and the 40. Now, let's go back. I can just show you another example here where we get this nice signal where RSI 20 drops down. In fact, let me just make sure you can see this clearly. So the RSI 20 holds 50, and we get a deep oversold reading here. And at the time, this was starting to roll. So this was a little close, but I think it's still qualified as a setup because the 18 was still rising at this point. Came right down to the 40. This is kind of the classic pattern in the way it's going to play out. And again, then you work up, make new highs. It's more of a swing trade, in my opinion, than something that is going to always just continue to trend in a big way to the upside, but really could be played pretty nicely. Let's go ahead and I'm going to give you another example here. So this is Rambus. Rambus again, waiting for the RSI 20 to show up. Hold on just a sec. So we can see we've got new price high here and a new price high, new high in the RSI. And then we get the pullback, and it does break the 18, but we have a rising 40 and a rising 18. And then we take out this prior high. Look at the setup down here with the RSI 20 clearly above 50 and this clearly below 30. So that's the kind of pattern we're looking for. And then we get a nice move to the upside. And then divergence shows up right at this peak where RSI 20 doesn't confirm, and we would have wanted to been exiting this on that play. So that's just another example here. Now, this is another pullback setup type play. And as I've mentioned, I mean, I'm okay with doing this even though you don't get to 30 to the downside, but I'd be looking for more confirmation in something like this. I might even go down to a lower time frame and look for a little bit more confirmation that we're turning back to the upside, or maybe even getting back above the 18, something like that. In this case, I don't have to wait for too much confirmation because I know I have a very strong trend and I've got a deep oversold reading. So this is something that I think can be used with options as well when you get this type of reading. Still would wait for the trigger to set up, make sure it gets through that prior bar's high, but I think options could be a good play in this situation. And then let's look at an example on FCX. So FCX does this pullback back here, and we get this reading. But look at what happened before. You see this higher high here was clearly a lower high here. So I'm not going to take this signal. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the stock is going to roll over, but it tells me that I don't really want to play this deep oversold reading when I have divergence, because a lot of times it'll do this. It'll take more time and get set up. Now, if you notice, we finally made, so we were consolidating, and then we got back above most moving averages and held the 18. And on this pullback, RSI 5 got under 50 and RSI 20 held above. So this would have been the first signal using this criteria. Now, if you go back and look at my ADX approach with the MACD and everything, it gives you the same signal. But this is just another way. I know a lot of people ask me about RSI. I get questions about RSI all the time. So this is kind of my approach. This is my favorite signal, is this deep oversold reading that I mentioned on the keys weekly, and it can be used in any time frame. So go ahead and post any questions or comments, and we'll see you next time.